Welcome everyone, this is Tim Pullman and you're listening to the SEP Couch. This podcast is all about standard essential patents. We talk about patent strategies, friend licensing, patent pooling, and patent litigation. So let's dive into today's episode. She is a team leader and technical expert in mobile research and wireless communication. And she is the Chief IP Strategy Officer of the ZTE Corporation. I'm super happy to have here today, Mang. Hello, Mang.
Hi, I'm honored to be on the show.
I am super happy to having you here today and ask you some more detailed questions on SEP portfolio management. But before we get started, I am always eager to learn more about the person that I'm interviewing. So it would be great if you could walk us through your career. And since we want to talk about SEPs and standards, elaborate a bit on your experience and when you got in touch with the world of standard essential patents.
Oh, sure. So I have a long career, but pretty simple career. I started my career in 1994 as an engineer in Motorola Mobility. As a research and development engineer, and I worked in a GSM product team, CDMA standard and UMTS architecture group, and that lasts about 9 years. Then in the end of 2002, and I joined the technology SM management group, which actually is a patent management group, which manages the Motorola Mobility's full patent portfolio. And in the beginning of 2003, because of my knowledge in the CDMA standard and as well as the UMTS standard, and I joined a project to clean chart towards the UMTS standard, all the SEPs Motorola owned, not only the mobility, and to chart against the UMTS standard. And this is to support a series of licensing program. So during that period, the LTE standards development took off. So when I was doing the clean chart, I found out that we need to place a good tracking program during the prosecution so that to ensure the claim will map to the standard. So I started the program somewhere in 2003 to help coordinate the whole corporation's standards team and whole corporation's the patent management team, because at that period of time, Motorola's management is by a business unit. So then that methodology was being optimized during the whole LT development period. And then it took about 10 years until the 5G standards research took off. So, and during that period, I also joined, I'm also participated in most of the licensing program, the 3G licensing program, and also as a technical support to support the technical patent negotiation. That was in Motorola. Then in that and also the litigations during the 2008 and to 2012-ish period. The reason I mentioned that is because the licensing program and litigation program gave me a lot of experience to understand what an SEP is supposed to be. I mean, how to improve the quality of the essentiality of an SEP patent. So in 2017, I joined the ZTE to leading the first, at the very beginning. Oh, you have another question about joining ZTE. So should I also continue?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so I joined the ZTE in 2017. At the very beginning, I lead the SEP portfolio management team, focusing on the 5G SEP portfolio development. So my experience before really helped me to establish a much more better optimized the SEP management program in ZTE.
That makes sense. And, I think it's also interesting to see that ZTE made you the Chief IP Strategy Officer with so much focus on SEPs for that company, right? I think that is also an interesting move and shows how important standard essential patents are. Also interesting, I mean, we all read a lot about Motorola's SEP portfolio in the past years around the whole sale, even though it hasn't happened yet. And I keep hearing that the licensing agreements in place are the main value driver of that portfolio, right? And I think you had some responsibility for that. So that's also good insights of your experience here, Mang.
Yes, yes.
Tell us a bit about, in your position, can you elaborate a little bit on your teams and are you managing the patent attorneys, the corporate IP team, the standards team? How is that organized at ZTE and what is your responsibility there?
After joining ZTE, as I said at the very beginning, I was leading just the SEP portfolio. And during that period of time, because of my experience, also I serving as kind of advisory role to our licensing team for the decision makings, licensing strategies, rate determination, and all kinds of stuff. So this year, very early this year, I started to take responsibility for managing the whole ZTE patent portfolio, including the essential and non-essentials. So this is a great opportunity for me to apply my ideas, my believing, and my strategy to help ZTE as a whole to manage better of its whole portfolio, to have the portfolio improve the quality as well as kind of have a better investment return on this portfolio. In terms of working with the other team, it will also tie into the other question, right?
Sure.
So maybe I can answer when you go on to the other questions.
Sure. No, but that is already very interesting. And I think also as ZTE is one of the largest 5G SEP holders, that's quite a responsibility. And now you have the whole portfolio, which is, of course, it's not all SEPs. We understand that other patents can be very valuable as well, but it all is around, I guess, telecommunications technology, which, fits together in one portfolio. In that regard, I think one of the discussions we have heard in the past years is around the actual standards technology, that is below or that is protected by these patents, 3G, 4G, and now 5G. And I know you are actually a subject matter expert. You can read a patent, the technology, you have been to these standards meetings. Can you maybe explain to some of the people in your view, what are the main advances that comes now with 5G? What are the technologies that will really make a difference to the former generation? Because, some people that use a smartphone, they keep saying, okay, 5G is just a bit faster, a bit less latency, but is it really improving much? But what is, in your view, the most exciting new technologies that 5G can bring?
Yeah, actually, to be very brief, high speed, low latency, and massive capability is really the key, the most advanced for 5G compared with 4G. But there are a lot of new technology involved in 5G in order to bring these kind of high quality cellular services. So because of these new improvements that enabled a lot of applications which 4G cannot achieve. So for example, like the high speed will have the vehicle to vehicle communication be available. And because mobile vehicle to vehicle communication really require a lot of data throughputs and server help and all kinds of stuff. So in my opinion, it improved the user experience on our phone not only like you can do things quicker, it's more of introduce more applications. So the application is not yet very well developed so far, but I believe when after 2 or 3 years, there will be more applications beyond the mobile device. Additional, as I mentioned, as vehicle-to-vehicle communications. So it bring the application, enable the vertical industry to utilize the cellular communication, and it will improve their service on their end. So I think it's amazing. I mean, any of the new communication generation pushing out, the technology pushing out will always bring a lot of applications. So like 4G, you cannot imagine there are so many mobile applications on the phone compared with 3G, right? So the 5G people will can think about new things. It will, I think, from pattern of view, I think we will see more the application patterns coming out because of the 5G get on the market, and it gets more and more popular when people use it.
Yeah, and that makes sense. The platform, the technology standard must come first before we know what kind of applications also will fly in the market. But that's very exciting, and I think we are still at the very beginning. I think some people expected 5G would be there much faster, but we're still at the very beginning of the usage of the 5G network and the capability. So the next years will show, I'm sure. And interesting to hear to have some patents also on the application layer that could be even go beyond 5G patents. That's interesting as well. I think everyone knows and understands that owning an SEP portfolio can be very lucrative. I mean, it's of course also shows that your position is advising licensing, because there is a commercialization in licensing, selling, or different ways of commercializing your patents in the market. But I think sometimes people forget how hard and how much investment it needs to actually have a valid and essential patent. So could you maybe walk us through the process of how an idea from R&D becomes an input in standards development, and then is secured as a patent in parallel to make sure that your patented invention is integrated in the standard, but also valid and essential? Can you explain a little bit how that works and how you coordinate all this?
Yeah.
So you have SEPs at the beginning?
Yeah, I'm very happy to do that because this is my specialty, right? And also, I would like to spend more time on this topic. There are so many things involved in what you're in your question. So there are a lot of teams will be involved in this patent, not only patents, the technology development, all the way going to the standards contributions and the standards during the standards development. Lots of companies involved in it, and then we will finalize the standard, picking the best solution so that the other people can use it. So this is a long-term project. It started not just from we're talking about the 5G started in certain years. It started way before that. For example, like our 6G, right? There's nothing really. I mean, what is 6G is still a topic people are discussing about it. It's the same as 5G development. And when I was in Motorola, the corporate research was far. The OFDM, the research was far before the people would take it. People take their modulation into the cellular standard. Similarly in the ZTE, right? So we have a 3-tier of the research teams: the long-term research, the mid-term research, and the short-term research. So it's all around standards area. I'm not talking about application and all this stuff. So our long-term research guys, they will look at the most advanced technology, and very theoretic research kind of, compare with the final short-term research. They will talk about what kind of technology will be used in the future communication industry. So this research will look into the more than 5-10 years beyond. And the mid research is more focused on the standards, which is more, I'll say that along with the standards discussion. For example, the 6G, we have like midterm research will be took the long-term research result and more work in the details. So we hope our research, our proposal for 6G will be adopted in the 6G standards, right? So this is more of the midterm towards long-term towards midterm, but the real midterm is more of a looking at the next release of the, let's say 5G. So the release 18, what kind of topic should be discussed in release 18, and what kind of benefit we should, bring into release 18 or something like that. So short-term research more towards the current development of the standards. So at this period, I think they are looking at making contributions to release 17 and some of the contributions to release 18 if the working item is already established. And really, really short is more of like next meeting, what we want to make contributions. So this is a long timeline research. We have a couple hundreds of the research engineers. It's called cellular standards research engineers, not talking about other research engineers, other standards. In ZTE, they do background research, make simulations, support the standards team to make contributions. So there's another team called the standards delegate team, right? They are the people who go into the meetings making contributions. Although the contributions are really a collaborative work from them and along with the research team. So there are about close to 100 engineers who go into different standards to make contributions. So another team inside the ZT is really if it's standards related, it's the patent team. We have a dedicated SEP patent portfolio management team. I led before, but now it's led by another person. I'm still supervising that. It's all under my patent team. So we have two kinds of the people in the patent team and the SEP patent portfolio management team. The most important, I cannot say most, but they are all very important. But what I wanted to point it, it's different probably from other companies. We have very, very experienced standards engineers who joined my team to do patent prosecution. So we even have one, the China Gold Patent Award owner to be on the team. So they really knows the standards. And they are knowing, they all got the patent agent license. They can prosecute the patent too, but I utilize them more on the technical side. So every single standards patent application is tracked by our patent team. So the SEP team. So having a very strong SEP team on board is extremely important to have a high quality SEP portfolio. So talking about how we work together. So we have placed a life cycle patent management process around our SEP as well as non-SEP, but I'm talking about SEP at this point. So we work with the long-term research, midterm research people, and also the short-term research people, most recent research people, and to file patent applications. So according to the standards development, so before we kind of each year we do the SEP patent application strategy kind of discussion with our inventor team. But now for the standards, we are more following the standards development stage, the status. So for example, if the what is status of release 17 now, and what kind of topic is in the release 18. So we work with them to determine the budget, determine the people support. And we have another kind of people is the case managers in my team to taking care of different small research group. We have research group targeting, let's say, memos, range, channel structure, whatever. So because of the specialty of the inventors, so they group them as different projects. So we work with each project to help work with them, identify the patent applications, and try to coordinate with our outside counsel to have these applications filed, as quick as possible in order to establish the priority dates. And that. So here are how we work together. And also during the prosecution stage, we also work with them, with the two different teams to identify the patents which can really read this current release. Then we will make sure that during the prosecution, and we work with outside counsel to make sure the patent will be ended up with a very high quality SEP patent. So this is kind of basic. Let me see if I have. Why don't you ask some questions so I can see if I miss anything?
I mean, no, I think this is super exciting. I mean, what I always think is fascinating in all this coordination work is that you have so many moving parts in this. People go to standards meetings and submit new contributions from all companies, right? From all over the world. You have your R&D team doing this midterm, long-term, short-term research. And then you have prosecution kind of like keeping up with the existing prior art, drafting claims. And the standard is moving as well, right? So even if you have your priority established, you kind of have to make sure the still developing standard, the claims are, mapping that. So I think that is super fascinating of how that coordination has to take place to have in the end an SEP. But this is also all very, this is great, but it's also very expensive, I can imagine, having your R&D folks, having your standards people go to the meetings, and then high class patent prosecutors and patent teams. How do you right size your portfolio? How do you make sure your portfolio is not becoming too big? And how do you remain quality? Is there some strategy how you do that, or?
Yeah. Okay. Let me go back to a little bit in terms of the cost. Like investment. ZT investment, you can tell is we heavily invest in the research because there are so many people over there. Around with the long-term, short-term, and mid-term research, we invest a lot. And also we invest in the patent SEPs. I forgot to mention, like the real cost in the patent application is really the foreign filings. So we managed a whole portfolio and the whole family. We increase the family members. This tie into the right size of the patent. So we are not only filed China patents, we file all over the world, right? So that foreign filing introduced a lot of cost. The foreign agencies, all government fees for all countries, and also the annuity fees, it's all cost a lot. But when I look at my budget, and I was super surprised because when I was in Motorola, I don't keep taking care of budget. So there are people who are taking care of budget. In ZT, I have to take care of my budget. So I look at the budget, I was like, wow, so this is the cost. So then talking about how to manage the size of stuff. So we took, because of what we don't want to miss any inventions. So we basically file all the applications which we believe there is a novelty in it, which tie into the future standards, right? So regardless, it's long-term or short-term and stuff. And then we try to make them better. Like the long-term, short-term, long-terms, we may want to have the the claims will be broad enough to cover, whatever in the standard. So after filing, as I said, we have the life cycle patent portfolio management. It's a family and a portfolio management. It's not only one single patent management. So I hope people don't confuse that one with the patent prosecution life. So the life will start from the born of the application all the way to issue the patent. It's not stopped yet. We will do a review for each SEPs which is already, it is issued, and then we will tagging them as the quality or more of a usage or the intentionality, and as well as whether this one, if it's even not in this release, could be used to the future release kind of. So all the tagging helped us to, as you said, the right size of the patent. So we will kind of optimize how many we have, the patent portfolio, patent portfolio during the prosecution, the tagging. Then in the end, we were not in the end, and then even during the prosecution, we will determine what we are going to do with this patent application. So keeping a right size is very important. That is how we also work with the patent licensing team, as well as the litigation team, and to get their feedback. So the strategy is not only determined by the patent team, it's also determined by the whole IPR department, and taking the opinion from the licensing patent transaction team, as well as the patent litigation team. And there is a lot of patents we keep to, it is not only the SEP, as a full SEP, non-SEP portfolio. Patent is not only to license or litigation. Patent will support some kind of a business, to support our business events. So actually we need a patent to support a lot of situations, So in terms of SEP, certainly we sell our SEP patents. And we have a lot of companies or buyers come to us, ask for our patents, because I think they probably see, it's very amazing. They do their own analysis about our patent portfolio. And they come say, hey, can we, do you want to sell these patents? When I look at them, I said they did a very good homework to identify the patents that we don't want to sell,
Right. Because
yeah. So yeah, patent transaction will be one patent operation, like it is really a license team's work, job, responsibility to do the patent transactions. But my team totally support that. So I personally also identify the patents we are willing to put into the patent transaction program.
Okay. And that is because you kind of like compare, should we make the effort of licensing, or we just sell and we don't have to have the effort of licensing anymore, and but we have maybe a faster revenue stream and on the patents, or what are the determinants of that decision?
Oh, that is the strategy. It's getting into a little bit confidential.
Okay, sure.
So there are a lot of needs. For example, people come to ask. It's all, you can consider what they offer, right? If you want to sell, because we have so many essential patents. So I don't think we really need to keep so many. Otherwise, it will becomes a cost. Right. It is more of a investment and return, right? Yeah. We are looking at the return. So we have to, there is a goal setting for each year want to have certain amount of return on our investment. So if our investment grow too big, then if we don't put a patent transaction program, then it will become we have to abandon some of the patents. So instead of abandon them, certainly we want to make money out of them.
Sure. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Maybe also here going one step back, about also some cost and risk associated with this whole process. And talking about validity, some patent offices, for example, like European patent offices, has a lot of data on, for example, contribution or other standards documents to also do searches in the prosecution, while the US doesn't have that. You have to do it yourself more. How do you do that? And also talking about, at IPlytics about data, how do you coordinate access to data, making sure that, you have claims that are not reading or that are really not subject to prior art, because that is, I guess, a big risk that, after all, you are in a licensing negotiation and someone is able to invalidate your patent through PTAB or whatever process. How do you do that, and how big is that risk for you?
We try to improve our improve our novelty of our patents. So certainly, even after the patent office finish their examination, there will be still the risk of other people can invalidate our patent. So let's talk about the patent database. Internally, we have subscribed a lot of patent database in order to support our patent landscaping, because we will do look at some companies' patents as a whole, not into the individual ones, and to see to support our development projects. It's very important to see what other people may have in this period, in this area, right? A quantity or something like that. Even for our licensing program, when we approach certain companies, we also need to know what they have as a number of patents, SEPs. Then, in addition to that, also we do some of the prior search. You utilize these tools, but I always try to tell our inventors not to do prior search in the patent domain, because it's very dangerous to end up like intended infringement or something like that. So we'll get the punishment. But for SEPs, it's very important to understand what other companies' contributions are in certain area. Like when we do a contribution, the standards people will also know what other companies' contributions are, and that will be that's a very, very good tool is certainly your IPlytics tool, right? So we utilize IPlytics tool to do a lot of SEP, especially the 3GPP SEP landscaping, to see we track other companies' declaration monthly, so to see what other people do and we need to react on that. And also for prior search, we also utilize your tool to do prior search. Also, we utilize some of the other consulting company to do prior search, and also we use you guys to help us to do prior search too, right? So before we file a patent, we do prior search for contributions in order to make sure all the other people's contributions are available to the USPTO or other as a reference to any of the patent office, because some of the examiner, they may not have the capability of doing the contribution search, but it is extremely important to have the examiner know what is already available in order to identify the difference between our invention and other people's contribution. So this is one thing we do, and thanks for IPlytics, tool, which helped us a lot.
No, that's great to hear, Mang, that we can help there. Always happy to have good feedback here. In terms of the prior art searches in the patent office, what interests me, because I once read a research article comparing the USPTO performance to the European patent performance on SEP prior art searches and the quality of patents. Is this also your experience that in the USPTO, they probably will not find all prior art, or that in the EPO there's more prior art because they have this access to the data at the office, or you think that that's similar?
What I experienced is that we got issued from US Patent Office quickly, a lot quicker than the EP office, and sometimes then we got search report from the EP office, the European office. Then we look at the prior art. Then we usually will submit IDS to US USPTO in order to have them aware of these patent. Okay. The prior art. So this is very important. And actually by patent, US patent law, we're supposed to submit IDS. Otherwise, it's not very good. I mean, it's a kind of against the patent law. It will have very bad disadvantage in the patent litigation. Okay. So as I mentioned, when we file internationally, I file a lot of foreign filings. And also in the prosecution stage, we have our law firm. We utilize, there's one thing I forgot to mention. We work with our US and German law firms in order to improve our SEP quality. We hired very experienced, the law firm has very good experience in SEP prosecution in Germany and as well as in US to managing our, we call the managing law firm, to managing each individual patent family, to oversee the prosecution of each different foreign filings, like in the EPs or Korea or Japan or even China, and to make our office action, the response more consistent. So that is how we took European search result and feed in the not only US and also maybe the other countries, to make sure all the different countries patent office will aware of all the prior art, so that it will be mentioned in the patent applications.
That makes sense. So in the end, I think if the very international filings and patent strategy you have also increases quality, because you have different examiners.
Definitely.
Right, looking at this.
Yeah, definitely. We are not only feeding the US patent office our European search result, is overall, all countries, because they are aware of it, they are them anyway. So we don't need to, because all the we have identified the different foreign law firms for our German counsels and also our US counsels, and they work with them. So they will report to the managing law firm for each individual patent prosecution results, like OA, the office actions. They will report back, for example, to our US law firm, and the US law firm will look at the office action from different countries and to give them kind of advice how to respond to the office action. So it's that is how we improve the quality of our patent portfolio. Okay,
now that makes sense. Very interesting. One question that comes to my mind sometimes, Mang, is when we look at the IPlytics data, we see throughout these generations, let's say in telecommunications, 3G, 4G, and now 5G, that we have more contributions submitted for 5G than for all earlier generations. And we have more patents declared for 5G than to all other generations combined. So there's some people out there that call this over-declaration, or even in contributions and the standards development, there's a lot of more people now at these meetings and trying to contribute. What is your opinion? Is this true? Is this like inflation, or is it true that 5G as a technology generation is just bigger and there's more technology and thus more patents and more contributions?
In my opinion, it is a very good thing, because you can see not only a few companies are working in the cellular standards area. There are a lot more companies and are working on that. So a lot more companies make investment to the newer standards. More people working on that. It can be. I expect that the new standards will be more optimized, and and they give better features, and this is what I hope. So I don't think it's a bad thing, but I don't know how what is the complexity brought into the standards development, world, the society, because I do hear, I do see some picture. Usually I was in the standards development before. I personally participated in the TIA 45 for a period of time. So during that meeting, there was only like 20 or maybe 40 if a joint meeting, in the room, and the people just raise their hand and say, now I see the picture, people will line up, very long line. I don't know, 1 day, 2 days, the line will be ended or not. I don't know. So, but I don't know how the standards body will deal with so many contributions, and but I think they work pretty efficient, and the 5G still published, like the release 15 and 16 and 17. Now we're working on 18 and maybe in the future. So I think they have a solution, and to solve that. In terms of over declaration, people are always so afraid of that. For me, although I forgot to mention, I'm taking care of the patent declaration for ZT in all the standards bodies, but more frequently is in the 5G, in the 3GPP, for asset declaration. So we the applications data showing next. There are so many patent applications. So we do need to declare if we have, which means we have so many patents, right? That is the reality. People are also worried about transparency or whatever. Actually, I don't really think people really need to worry about that much, because patent license is more of a bilateral negotiation. So we go to the licensee, will provide them very clean charts. At least ZT do that. Mm-hmm. And as I told you, during our prosecution, our patent management is very transparent, because we know what we have, and we even tagging them as from different angle, from different parameter, we will evaluate our portfolio, right? So when we do bilateral negotiation, we go to another party and we tell them what we have, and we give them evidence, and we talk to them. So this is what we call the technical discussion. So like my team go there, give them like maybe 10, 20 or something, what we agree upon. So we clearly identify how important our essential patents are and how good that is. And some of them will do research, try to show us the product, but we tell them, we will be valid if you file IPR or whatever. So it is very transparent during the negotiation. Although I do see some company approach to us, they are not so transparent. They dump us a lot of claim charts, and then we ask questions, and they will say, one person even take the definition. In the standards, there is a definition section, right? They even take the definition section, tell me, hey, this is the proof, the evidence. It's not. It's just a definition. You have to tell me in the standards document, because the definition, we cannot execute the definition, right? We have to execute the methodology in this, defined in the standards. So our clean charts are not like this at all. We are so much in the detail, telling, what the step is. Each definition, a name in a claim, and map to what is defined in the standards. And the element, the step, is clearly mapping to where in the standard. So, so this is what I'm saying. People don't need to, in my opinion, this is totally my opinion. People don't need to worry about, there are so many declarations. If they can hire like Analytics or whoever else outside the consultant company to do assessment to our portfolio, to tell us, which ones are essential, which one they believe are not. So we can also help them to understand this. So this is totally my opinion. I think we will do whatever we do. And personally, I don't intend to declare them many, but this is what we're supposed to. And this is an exit policy, so we cannot do anything. We only need to support the exit policy.
Right. I mean, if you want timely declarations, of course, you declare anything that could potentially be essential, which may include non-essential patents. I think that is by design of the system, as you say. And what I think also is interesting, what people sometimes forget, a large SEP owner like ZTE, that you are not always on the one side of the table, you're also on the other side. You are the licensee in some situations, right?
Yes. We're definitely a licensee.
Yeah, both sides, right? And that also shows, right, finding reasonable ways to get, to a technical discussion that makes sense, where both sides understand that's essential and that's not.
Yeah, we are negotiating with one company, try to, we are as a licensee. They don't have operations, so they are, NPE. So we have to, we do very detailed analysis of their patents and feedback, what we believe. So, what we do. So I hope all the licensees can do that. If they can't, they can hire, they at least they can invest to hire a consultant company to help them to do technical discussion with us, right? So look at how much money we invest in the research and patent filings and all the stuff. So this is what they're supposed to invest. That's my opinion.
No, that makes sense. I mean, I think looking at the whole process that you just described, Mang, I think it's huge. It's on so many levels. It's R&D, it's standards development work, it's your patent experts, it's the prosecution, the outside counsel, and then the whole office action work that you have to maintain. I think that's pretty amazing. And even though I know you will not disclose the number that you got so surprised with, but I think it has lots of digits on it, the cost that you have to invest here. This was super great, Mang. I think this was one of the most detailed insights into the whole process of SEP portfolio management. And I thank you so much that you gave us so much elaboration on the process. This is super exciting. And I'm always ending interviews to give you the final word, Mang, on your final statement of what you want our listeners to remember from you.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank you for my opportunity to introduce the ZTE's work. Appreciate very much all your support to ZTE. In terms of the final word, I think I want people to remember there are great IP professionals who work diligently to build SEP portfolio, and along with the huge R&D investment by the leading cellular companies like ZTE. We do so just because we believe in the purpose of the patent law.
Perfect. Mang, thank you so much again. This was Mang Zhu, Chief IP Strategy Officer at ZTE. Thanks for joining this, and I hope to hear you with the next episode. Thank you so much.